at Bridge project.
Okay. I have two agreements in front of you. The first agreement would be between the town and Milani Construction related to the water line relocation at the bridge project. As you recall, for work to continue with the bridge new bridge construction, our water line needs to be moved. SHA was informed of the location of our water line at the beginning of this project and repeatedly for months on end that our water line was here, your design is not going to work. They did not heed our caution and proceeded with their design, and lo and behold, the contractor has now found that the water line is in the way and he can't proceed. So we have had several meetings between ourselves, State Highway, and Milani, and the town's position has held firm since day one that we notified you of our water line. We did not request this project. We are not paying to move our water line. So after several meetings, an agreement was made that State Highway and Milani will split the cost of the water line relocation. If you jump to page 27 real quick of your agenda packet, this is what they refer to, as you'll see in both agreements or contracts. It's called the prior rights determination. So State Highway conducted their investigation and determined that work on this project may necessitate the adjustment or relocation of 1,112 feet of water line, which were acquired in 1963 from the Emmitsburg Water Company. They have found that 508 feet of the water line to be located within the State Highway Administration's existing right-of-way acquired under contracts. The town would be responsible for that relocation. They found 65 feet of the water line to be located on the line of the State Highway Administrator's existing right-of-way. Therefore, it would be a 50-50 share State Highway and town cost. The remaining 539 feet of water lines are located entirely outside of the SHA existing right-of-way. Therefore, that would be solely the SHA's responsibility. The total estimate from Milani Construction to relocate the water line is $38,000, and that amount would be divided according to prior rights agreement. So the prior rights here. The town's portion would be $19,000 of the water line relocation. So, per the agreements that we have before us with Milani Construction will be paying the town's portion of the water line relocation. John Clapp drafted this agreement between the town and Milani Construction related to that relocation. And I'll just go through some highlighted areas. The SHA Bridge Replacement Project will require that a portion of the town's public water line and related utility structures be relocated and/or replaced. SHA has asserted that the town is or will be responsible for paying the costs and expenses incurred in relocating or replacing a portion of those water lines and structures based on the prior rights determination. Whereas the town disputes its obligation to pay for such costs and expenses and has not consented to the water line relocation as part of the SHA Bridge Replacement Project. We wanted that on the record that we do not consent to this. We did not agree to it. Whereas Milani then, I'm jumping down to the next paragraph, Milani is willing to pay or reimburse the town for any costs or expenses incurred by the town as directly charged by SHA for the water line relocation. And Milani is willing to provide the town with funds to be held by the town in escrow in an amount equal to $150,000 of the estimated cost which may be charged to State Highway by State Highway to the town. So Milani's gonna build SHA directly for the work. And then SHA is gonna in return, bill us for our portion. SHA is not willing to do a three-party agreement, which is what we wanted to do. It's not in their practice, so that's why we have two separate agreements. So Milani, is willing to give us a $28,000, actually they already did, they gave us a $28,000 escrow check. The water line relocation shall be undertaken in accordance with plans, drawing, and specifications approved by State Highway, Milani, and the town. The town will coordinate with and provide to SHA all the necessary testing requirements. Like I said, they already gave us the check for it's actually $28,500 to be held by the town in escrow. In the event that the escrow funds, in the event that the funds held in escrow are inadequate to pay for all the invoices, statements, charges, and bills which are submitted by State Highway to the work associated with the water line relocation, Milani agrees that it will, as the case may be, pay directly to State Highway or reimburse the town for any such excess invoices, statements, charges, and bills. So if they would go over the $28,500, they're still obligated to pay anything above and beyond that of what they've already given us the check for. So that's the initial agreement this is the agreement with Milani as far as the financial side of it.
Okay. And this was vetted by John Clapp to confirm that.
John
You
Clapp
said that already.
actually wrote this agreement.
Okay.
Milani, I'll let you know, they did bring the check for $28,500 and they have already signed the check, signed the agreement, excuse me.
Okay.
Per John Clapp, this agreement has to be approved before you approve the next agreement.
And that's with State Highway, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Okay. And again, let's ask this. I'm not going to assume. Did John Clapp write the contract with State Highway, or did they come forward with something?
State Highway wrote their own agreement. John Clapp has reviewed it and made comments. This agreement went back and forth between John Clapp and State Highway several times, both did,
Sure.
until it got to the final agreement.
Okay. In having two agreements with the two separate parties, what's our exposure to risk on this? I mean, I don't think we're going to get gridlocked anywhere.
I don't believe that we have much risk.
Okay.
And there's always a risk, but I think that
Sure.
this has been written as well as it could be to protect us.
Okay. It's just pretty amazing, the layers and the interaction that, they don't want to go to that three-party agreement, which I understand, but this is
It's been a very long process
of
to get to this agreement.
a logic problem, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. That's my piece and questions. Staff, commissioners, any questions for staff? Mr. Ritz, yes, sir.
I have one. We might have discussed this months ago. I just want to make sure. The whole process of moving the water line is a necessity due to the project. Would anybody be temporarily out of water because of this?
Yes, they will be. The work is supposed to occur overnight. It will affect everybody east. Not everybody east. I don't have everybody that's going to be affected. I know Silo Hill will be, McDonald's, the hotel. We've already made initial contact with them to let them know that
Okay.
this will be forthcoming. Milani's been directed to do this work on the least busiest night as quickly as possible. But yes, it will impact people. Anytime you do the water line work, unfortunately.
And it's only scheduled to be one,
I don't know. I
Overnight?
just say one night, but I'm sure it's more than one night.
I'm sure too.
We don't have the specs yet. They've got to develop the plans, which hopefully, if this is approved, they're going to start tomorrow on the plans.
Okay.
Okay.
Modest pressure.
But on the bright side, we're getting a brand new water line
Correct.
Yes. I just
in a very old section of town.
potentially see some
Headaches.
upset individuals potentially.
Yes.
In Arlington, when they do work like this, they bypass and put another temporary line above ground to get water to those places is not something that we could do?
It's probably not.
It's probably cost prohibitive. I mean, in Arlington, you're dealing with like
With
maybe
yeah.
8,000 people versus,
Right, right.
unfortunately, our smaller population. It's just probably, I would assume, cost prohibitive, but yeah,
I mean, I
that would
don't
be
know,
nice.
I'm sorry, I don't know the time frame, so, how long it's gonna take them. I don't believe it is going to be that long. But when it gets closer, we certainly will make all the notifications and all the, everything that we can do.
Okay, so, for clarification's sake, any further questions for staff related to this so far? Yes.
So the water outages will be during the nighttime hours, and then they'll be working again during the daytime hours? Or
I don't know. We don't have the plan yet. I know the initial discussions was to do the work at night.
So let's frame it on our end. Our best case scenario is as proposed. If we could do it at the least, water
Correct.
use hour, of course.
Correct, and that's what we've asked for.
So, but we're all on the same page and it's been
Right.
said now, so.
Right.
Does that satisfy your concern? Okay. All right, we don't have anyone signed up for public comment, though. Mr. Haxton, it sounds like you'd like to share. Could I invite you to the podium? Introduce yourself for a brief moment, give us your address, and then we'll give you the podium for a few moments.
I just had to comment on this, and
Introduce yourself and give us your address.
I'm Calvin Haxton. I live on Hampton Valley Road.
Thank you, sir.
Anyways, I believe Miss Willits is right. I've done this type of work and these type of things, and usually the basic way it's done is a parallel line is run, and then they make the connection on each end during the night or off hours or whatever. And it's usually a very rapid process, and it's usually very little disruption. So you should have minimal thing if the contractor does it that way, and you'd have to coordinate with that. But I think she's correct. It should be a very painless operation, really. It's nothing to really get excited about if it's handled well.
Okay.
And that's from personal experience
Great.
of doing this. So
Thank you, sir.
anyway.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Any other comments, questions for staff related to this item? Okay, so let's call this to a vote. Is there a motion to, what are we calling this, an agreement or contract?
Agreement.
Okay, and are we taking it in two parts? I don't know
No.
that, we haven't seen the state highway piece
This
yet.
one has
Is
to
that
be
correct?
approved prior to discussing the
Okay.
state highway one.
Very good. All right, so with that in mind, is there a motion to accept the agreement between the town and Milani Construction related to waterline relocation at Bridge Project? The reason I'm framing it that way is I'm using the agenda item 3 title here. Okay? So, with that in mind, is there, and staff sufficient?
Yes.
Okay. All right, with that in mind, is there a motion to that end?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement between the town and Milani Construction related to waterline relocation at the bridge project.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, sir. The motion's been made by Commissioner Rich. It's been seconded by Commissioner Blanchard. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? Very good. The motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Sweeney absent. We now turn back to staff. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your legwork on this as well.
All right, the last agreement is the letter of agreement for the water line relocation of Town of Emmitsburg in conjunction with MDOT SHA's contract. This is the SHA agreement. It's fairly similar,
What page?
page 22. This letter of agreement between MDOT State Highway Administration and Town of Emmitsburg sets forth the agreement between the parties to relocate a portion of the town's water line to facilitate the replacement of the bridge along Maryland 140, over Flat Run within the limits of the town. The parties agree that the water line relocation will be included in the aforesaid contract, and the cost responsibility for all work associated with the water line relocation will be divided between the town and SHA based upon the attached prior rights determination, Exhibit 1. And that's the one that we discussed earlier. The expense, total expense is $38,000. The town's responsibility is approximately $19,000. The town will coordinate with and provide to State Highway all necessary testing requirements and specifications for the water line relocation to be clearly stated on the plans. The town's certified contractor will be responsible for testing. State Highway and the town will jointly and periodically inspect all the town's water line relocation, with the town providing technical inspection and State Highway providing construction inspection services. State Highway shall be the principal construction manager for the contract. State Highway shall provide the town with a detail of all costs related to the water line relocation. State Highway shall periodically provide a detailed invoice to the town to indicate the amount of money that the town owes to SHA for the water line relocation during that invoice period, in accordance with Exhibit 1. Progress will be tracked, and final billing to the town for the water lines relocation cost will be based on the State Highway's contractor's monthly estimate, with the understanding that all billings are due within 30 days of the receipt of an invoice from State Highway. In the event of certain change conditions requiring modifications to proposed construction, reconstruction, adjustment, protection, or relocations, State Highway will notify the town of the need to provide plans and specification details detailing the proposed changes to the water line relocation and determine all costs with the contractor. And that's about it for that one.
Okay, any questions for staff related to the state highway agreement documents?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I understand the necessity of two, because they didn't agree to a three-way agreement, but just to reiterate, we're not responsible for any funds, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
In our agreement with Milani is separate from the agreement with State Highway. And this is why that agreement had to be signed first, because the agreement with State Highway is, we owe you money, but our agreement with Milani is you're paying us.
Okay, I get you.
They would not do a third-party agreement. John Clapp and I tried our darndest to get a three-party contract, but it would have eliminated all this. State Highway claims they do not do three-party contracts.
Well,
Okay. Mr. Ritz, you good?
no, I'm just laughing, because that'd be extra red tape. Yeah,
Okay. Nobody likes that, do we, yes?
sorry. The
Okay.
irony.
Well, Mr. Ritz, if it makes you feel any better, let's say we were less than a forthcoming town, we'd almost be off the hook almost, because were we not able to pay in 60 days our obligations, were there any obligations, it would be deducted from the HUR, the Highway User Revenue Balance,
Yeah.
which doesn't really exist at this point in time to speak of, and therefore, but they caught it. So even that's, they're perhaps as clever as we are. So,
Okay.
one would hope. Okay, moving forward, any other questions for town staff?
No, I'm good now.
Okay.
It's falling into place. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Buckman, Commissioner Blanchard, anything? No? Okay. I feel like I've got the Praetorian Guard here. You guys both in your bright red here, you know?
Hello, we get your protection.
You didn't get the memo.
I saw what happened to the Emperor. It's not good.
Oh, jeez.
All right, so we move forward. Is there a motion related to the agreement? And let me clarify, if I can.
Want to do just where it says on the letter,
Yep,
the
here we
regarding?
Okay, is there a motion related to the letter of agreement for the water line relocation of the town of Emmitsburg in conjunction with Maryland Department of Transportation, State Highways Administration's contract number FR 5365180?
I'll make a motion to accept the letter of agreement for the water line relocation of the town of Emmitsburg in conjunction with the MDOT SHA's contract number FR 5365180.
Thank you. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Buckman and seconded by Commissioner Blanchard. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Sweeney absent. Great. And again, thank you, staff, for a considerable effort, and if you would share that sentiment with Mr. Clapp, that would
I
be
will.
appreciated also. I'm very happy we stuck to our guns, and it seems to have come forward to our
Yes.
advantage. Not advantage, but to doing what's right, and that should be best, and I hope that
I
is
agree.
best. Okay, we now turn to agenda item number 4,
Okay.
Park Pavilion Policy Amendment for consideration.
Right.
And again, we
This-
turn to staff related to this item.
Right, this is just a quick change. As you recall, you approved the baseball field reservation policy, I believe at the last meeting. So staff's intention is to have two separate policies, one for your ball fields, one for your park pavilion reservation. So policy 18-04 simply removes ball fields from the original policy. So now your policy 1804 is strictly about your community and Memorial Park Pavilion policy. So it's just a minor change. If you look at policy 1702 included both your ball fields and your parks on one policy. We created a new ball field policy at the last meeting. Therefore, we need to have a policy that just strictly governs your park pavilions. There's no changes to anything other than taking the ball fields out.
Okay, why the housekeeping? Why?
Because if you called in here and said, I want to, or you're looking at the policy for the park pavilions, when you look at that, you're going to see a policy that says, oh, I can rent the ball fields for $25 per day, and not know which one is true. So
Okay.
then you look at our last policy that delineates the other fees and the other responsibilities.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for town staff related to these modifications?
My only question is, I know we added the paragraph regarding the nonprofits last time due to some concerns from nonprofits. So just out of curiosity, how are they?
It's on the.
Right here.
It's in there.
It
No,
is in there.
I was just
It's-
going to ask you. I'm trying to phrase my question.
Okay.
How receptive are they to that $125 security deposit? Have we had any grovelings?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
The nonprofits have seemed to have been happy to make the deposit and then be refunded.
Okay, just.
I haven't heard
No,
of
it's
any
glad we were able to
problems.
put that in there for them, though. So. that's-
Right.
Thanks. Okay.
Great. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none? No? Is there a motion to accept the modification, is there a motion to accept policy number P1804 as presented?
I'll make a motion to accept policy number P1804 as presented.
Do we need to say that this is replacing 1604?
1702?
Or, all right, you're right, 1702. And that replaces 1604, sorry. Okay. Do we need to include that language that it's
I don't believe
replacing?
so.
Okay, very good.
I'll do it if you want me to.
No, we're okay. Are you threatening me, sir? Okay, here we go. Is there a second for the motion? That was funny, people. That was funny. Okay, is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, sir. The motion's been made by Commissioner
It's only 9:30.
Ritz, seconded by Commissioner Blanchard.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Aye. The motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Sweeney absent. Very good. Yes, I'm getting punchy. I'm sorry, folks. All right, we now turn to setting the agenda for our next meeting, mindfully that agenda item number 5 has been postponed potentially to the April 2nd meeting.
You need to do the motion for the closed session prior to the opening session closing.
Okay, well, before we close the opening session,
Fine? Yeah,
we want to get the agenda set?
we can?
Okay. So let's assume that item 5 is coming back, so is that
Yes, I
accurate?
have a different order, though.
Okay,
We, presentation on syringe exchange mobile program by the county health department. The update to parking policy and ordinances for discussion.
Okay, is this parking related to a particular area in town? Is it like Village Zone or whole town?
No, it's an overall parking,
Okay.
updates to our codes
Okay, thank you.
and policies. Presentation by staff on short-term transient rentals. And then I have two administrative business items. One is proclamation for April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And the second proclamation is Arbor Day observance on April 28th, 2018.
Okay, related to administrative business, my hope is to bring back a recommendation related to the proposed trail, Orange Trail route. Okay, and with that, I hope to bring back specifics of the bid formation and bid selection process related to contractors who would be utilized to build the trail. Okay, basically, how is the Trail Conservancy going to manage creating the bid and evaluating the bid, or bids, I should say, of those who will do the construction work for trails? So that's forthcoming for administrative business also. Any other items from the board? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to talk about allowing residents to make comments at the beginning of meetings unless it's related to a agenda item, so they don't have to wait around very long. I would like to discuss that.
Okay.
And then also a discussion about the ethics procedures and rules, and to have established procedures and rules in place in the town ordinances that can help guide the ethics committee and help staff process ethics complaints. As well, we should put appeals procedures in place. And then finally, I'd like to have yearly required training for all staff and commissioners on ethics rules and ordinances.
Okay, so for the agenda, public comment timing during meetings. Okay, all right. During town meetings, I should add. All right,
At an admin item.
as an admin item, okay, all right. So for administrative business, okay. Ethics Commission proposal, okay, could you summarize the proposal to sort of edify anybody who would be reading that to understand? I mean, what are your specific?
Establishing ethics procedures and rules.
How about review of ethics, procedures, and rules? And that opens the door for modification? Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay.
That is discussion item, because there's no way that staff could have, or ethics ordinance changes done.
Sure. No, I
Fine.
understand. Okay, so discussion item, so not an action item. Okay, not for consideration. All right. And just curiously, has this been brought to the Ethics Commission, though?
There are ethics procedures in place that were written by a prior attorney. They are not included in the code,
Okay,
because they are quite lengthy. They
okay,
were written over, when we figure, 5 years ago,
okay,
something like that.
Okay.
Because the ethics committee has a separate attorney at their, for their use.
at their disposal for their
Correct.
independent nature, is that?
Correct.
Okay,
And that independent attorney wrote their procedures, like I said, several years ago.
okay. I don't want to dig in too hard on this, but for clarity's sake, were those procedures adopted by the board or the Ethics Committee?
That was long before me. I don't
You're not
know.
aware at this time?
I don't
Okay.
know.
All right. Can I make a suggestion? Would it be possible if we were to bring this back to the May meeting? So that way we have time to talk, we have time for staff to be interactive on this. We can get data from staff, and we can also potentially have a look at that documentation from the independent attorney for that board, the 5-year-old information, and perhaps vet information or input rather from the ethics committee members. Is that, would that satisfy your
Yes,
your
can I
goals
just
here?
add one more
Oh, sure,
thing?
sure, sure, absolutely.
Because I had an extensive discourse with Michael Lord, who's the executive director of the State Ethics Commission.
Okay.
And they have extended that they will help us in any way that we need to. They do this for all the
Great.
municipalities, and
Okay.
they're very supportive.
Okay. Would you want them invited, like, but here's what would happen. If we have I'm just trying to frame this properly. So if we, could we frame it this way? So for a May meeting, we have them come and present. Does that make sense? So they give a presentation to us. In a June meeting, we look at what revisions could be
Budget only.
to modify it?
June is budget only, remember? June 1st?
If we
First
only have
in
one
June.
meeting, and I know the mayor likes 2 meetings. So,
No, you
but-
have 2 meetings in May for the
Right.
budget.
well, I'm trying to serve 2 masters here. I'm trying to
Budget.
serve the budget, but I'm also trying to make sure the commissioner, we have momentum to a process that merits attention. So it might be incumbent upon the board to give consideration to a second meeting in June, potentially, or gosh, I hate the idea of pushing this back all the way to July, but I think it would be great if we could hear from an authority on this and then dig into the system that we use at this time to modify it if there's a need to modify it. Does that make sense? Okay, so, if we cook slowly, we get a better cake. Huh?
There is legislation before them, before the state, to make modifications to some of the ethics laws as well. I
Okay.
don't know when it goes before the state, but there
Don't say
are some
August.
proposals. What's that?
Don't say August.
They only have 3-month session, don't they? So
It's a bad joke, I'm sorry. I'm refraining. All right, so, moving forward, so for the agenda item, okay. So, here, I'll hand this to you.
Okay.
That will be yours to drive on that one, as it's
Okay.
your item, okay?
Mr.
So-
Mayor,
Mr. Briggs?
Just, about a year and a half ago, we asked the commission to look at conduct of the board and the staff relations, and it was kind of pushed aside. And we were thinking about bringing that back this spring
Okay?
to look at. And is that correct?
Code of conduct policy?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know how that ties in with the ethics, but we're all hitting ethics at the MML meetings. We're hitting open meetings. We're hitting, we know what we can do and how we do it, and how many of us can be in a room at the same time. And do you, Ms. Wills, do you think we should present that, or it's just override that what we were looking at, the code of conduct?
Well, I think they both go hand in hand.
Well, maybe.
I mean, I think if the ethics procedures that were outlined by this attorney are over 5 years old, which I'm sure they are, because I've been here 5 years, then it certainly is worth taking a look at. Our ethics ordinance, our ethics code is up to date because it is reviewed by the Ethics Commission every year. We have to submit it to them. So we are, right now, in compliance with the way our ethics code is written. But it is worth looking at the procedures that were outlined by that attorney, and make sure they are up to date. And I do believe the code of conduct policy would go in conjunction with that, so.
Okay, so, Mr. Mayor, as you want to weigh in, as you should, what I'm proposing is April, we hear from the speaker. April, we hear about professional standards. Is that the right way to phrase what you're interested in seeing?
What do you call it?
It's a code of conduct policy.
Code of conduct policy, I'm sorry. Okay, so
Yep.
is that sufficient for April? No, I'm sorry, April or May? Would that give enough time for this person to commit to a meeting?
I don't know.
Okay,
He
all right.
seemed very
Amenable to it?
accessible.
Okay. All right, so let's,
I'm sorry, if you would forward the information to Ms. Shaw so she can reach out to him and let him know when the meetings are and check his availability. I know that I would prefer to bring the code of conduct policy in May, as
Okay.
we have a lot of things going on right now
okay,
to finish getting it done.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the suggestion then, all right? So we've got April coming up, so let's look at May, if this is all right, to have the speaker, if you're satisfied by that, okay? Where we have Mr. Lord address the group, address the commission and staff in the May meeting. At that time, code of conduct, would that also be in the May meeting potentially, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor? Is that the
Yes.
goal? All right, very good.
Works for me. Yes.
Okay, all right. Then we could move forward on ethics, rules, training. Like basically, we can move to procedures after we hear that input. Would that satisfy? So we have a process?
That's fine as long as we're moving on.
No, sure, absolutely. Well, that's, I mean, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set the stage where where we are all dealing with the same information, and we go to the next step and we can review process and systems. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what the intent is. So we educate ourselves on the issues, and then we address process and systems. Okay, so that would be, you know, May. In a perfect world, May. Okay. So we've got the syringe exchange presentation from the county, the mobile facility. Okay, we have the update to parking policies and codes as agenda items so far
For discussion.
for discussion, okay. We have staff presentation on the home sharing ordinance, is that what it is, or home sharing update?
Presentation by staff on
Short-term
short-term transient rentals.
Okay, home sharing. Okay, all right. And then public comment timing during meetings for consideration. That would be a modification of the process. Okay, I think that's something we could take on right then and there. Okay, for administrative business, we have a proclamation related to Child Abuse Awareness Month and an Arbor Day proclamation as well. Okay, and recommendation related to trails.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, staff, do we have clarity on the issue for the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as discussed?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as discussed.
Okay. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Blanchard, seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Is there any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Sweeney absent.
We got
Okay. Next, we have an announcement. Okay. This is a motion that I will make based on the script related to a closed executive session. All right. So I make a motion to close the March 5th, 2015 town meeting at its conclusion for a closed executive session to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending potential litigation regarding the 8-inch mountain water line as permitted by the General Provisions Article, Section 3-305, Section B, Item 8.
Brother, a second.
Sure.
A motion has been made by Commissioner O'Donnell to have a closed meeting after our general regular session.
Is there a
Do
second?
we have a second? Sorry.
Second that.
Any further discussion? No?
No.
All those,
No discussion.
all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone against? No? The motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner Sweeney absent.
Great. Thank you, sir. Process is process.
Little break.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's conclude the meeting. Is there a motion to conclude the meeting?
Motion made to close the meeting?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we conclude the meeting. Time is 9:47 p.m. At this time, let's take a 4-minute recess,
Bathroom break.
and we will return promptly to endeavor in our executive